Today is November 5th, 2020, as if we don't all know the date already. Welcome to the Historic Districts Commission meeting. I'm going to bring the meeting to order. I'm going to call us to order. If you could please mute your phone if you are not, or your device if you're not speaking, that would help. Thank you. All right, so let me go through my official protocols here. I'm calling this meeting to order at 7 p.m. This is the November 5th, 2020 Historic Districts Commission meeting. We have a few continuances, public hearings, and then we have, I think, one new public hearing, and we have some additional business at the end of the meeting. Pardon me. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Mass Executive Order suspending certain provisions of open meeting law, we are conducting the meeting online to ensure public access. We have made this this meeting accessible through telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions following the petitioner's presentation and questions from the commission. To do so, please raise your hand in the participant function of the Zoom meeting platform, which I think most of you are familiar with. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by hitting *9. Heather Gill is our host. She will mute, or I think Heather Carey. I can't remember which one of you is running the meeting here. One of our hosts will mute your microphones. And in order to preserve bandwidth, we may ask people to turn video screens off as well, with the exception of the commissioners, the host, and the current petitioner. Once we have acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. But before that, once there are no more public comments, I, as the chair, will ask for a motion to continue, approve with conditions, or disapprove the application. We'll have a second and conduct a roll call vote. So with that, welcome to our meeting, and why don't we get started? Heather, unless there's other business I need to announce beforehand. Nope.
Nope, we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, our first continued public hearing is 155 Monument Street. This is an application to construct a new detached garage structure with site improvements, paving and walkways, and then some additional modifications to the house, replacing doors and matching the new structure. And I would just like to say, before we get started, I just want to remind the commission that we are here to consider this proposal on this particular property at this time and in this historic district. So tonight we're going to render our opinion on this application, the massing position on the lot, the buffer between adjacent properties, following our mandate and adhering to our guidelines as best we can. What has been approved on other lots in the Monument Street district or elsewhere, especially those with larger setbacks, different massing, or other characteristics, may not be directly relevant to this application. And as we all know, pardon me, every property in Concord is unique and must be considered to some degree individually. We don't live in a town where design guidelines are rigid and inflexible, and our job is different from enforcing zoning or building code regulations. So I ask you to consider the specifics of this proposal, apply our guidelines, and then vote accordingly. So thank you for letting me speak. So I think we are we looking at new material? Heather, we received material right before the last meeting. Could we put that up on the screen, please, the newly submitted material? And I see Martha, are you here? The applicant is here.
I'm here.
Hi, Martha.
How are you, Peter?
I am as grounded as possible, given everything that's going on, but thank you for asking. Okay, so we've got, I just wanted to look at the, you had submitted some additional information right before the meeting last time, so we've had a chance to look at that. I just want to put it up on the screen again.
So that is the old one. I sent an email to Heather Carey today. I don't see the new proposal
It's not the
uploaded.
very last one
It's
there.
up there. I don't know if we need to
Hi, Heather.
close out completely and restart.
I did not see it there
Not
today.
restart, but close out of the internet browser completely.
Okay, let me.
Maybe just check.
Oh, there
on-
it is. I think I just saw it, Heather.
Yeah, wasn't it the 17-95?
No, I don't think so. I looked at that today.
All right. I saw it somewhere, so I don't
Hardscape
know.
plan?
Yes, I think that's
That's
it.
the one.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so Martha, will you be speaking? Do you
Yeah.
want to just walk us through this
Yes,
briefly,
I'd
just
be
to
happy to.
remind? I know the commission has looked at it, but if you wouldn't mind just walking us through.
Nope, not at all.
Thank
I'm going to
you.
use my notes just so I don't forget anything. So thank you to the commission. We listened carefully. I think our meeting was 5 weeks ago, and we listened carefully to your feedback. And we've made a lot of changes, especially on the hardscape plan. So we completely removed the circular driveway, which allows us to save the trees in the front. So we have a very large apple tree in the southeast corner that we save, and also the tree near the driveway. And then our brick walkway is a contiguous walkway from Monument Street sidewalk right to the front door. And that was an issue because it was intersected by the circular driveway. So we've changed that. And I think that looks prettier. We've kept the gate at the front at the sidewalk. It's a 4-foot gate that was there before. So the whole front of the property is now all grass with the walkway. And the original driveway will be in chipped seal, and it will go down 70 feet. It will stay the same as it is now, 70 feet. And then we've created a courtyard for safe turnaround. We have the turnaround and exiting issue from our property. So this was, I thought, kind of a sweet idea. I worked with Ramsey Gord on this, and we've created a courtyard, and there is a fence from the northeast corner across the driveway. And there is an elevation of what that looks like with a driveway gate. So cars will come in, visitors will come into the courtyard. There'll be a parking spot. We have a new back door on the house that goes into a mudroom. So there'll be a parking spot there. And the fence across the driveway will conceal not just the courtyard, but it will also conceal any cars that are parked there.
Mhm.
And that fence will match the front gate fence. So then the driveway will end at the house. And because the carriage house is just to store an antique car, it won't be driven daily, I've created brick treads with the grass strip in the middle to go into the carriage house. And I have an inspiration photograph in the packet here if you scroll down the next page. And it shows a carriage house. There it is. Thank you, Heather. And it shows the brick treads. I'm sure you've all seen those with the grass in the middle, and it actually shows the little gate. So this was my inspiration for the brick treads going into the carriage house. So I just want to talk about why we have the fence up there, the style of the fence and the gates that I chose. We have a lot of craftsman details on the bungalow. We are going to restore the roof overhang and the rafter tails. We have a new front entry with the craftsman columns. When we replace the windows, we're going to add the original sill back in. They were removed in the 50s, and they're on the south side of the house. So we are going to match the original. And my thinking with the fence being so simple and plain is I don't want to take away from the historic features on the bungalow and on the carriage house. The carriage house will also have the roof overhang and the rafter tails and the same windowsill detail in the craftsman doors. So I wanted the fence that will conceal the courtyard just to be simple. And I found this design and has a little bit of a detail, but it's very plain. We won't paint it. We'll let it go gray so that it blends in. Let's see, what else am I missing here? So it'll be attached to a 6-foot privacy fence around the back. The yards here are close together and we are in between 3 lots. So we'd like to create a private garden and a private dining area for our family. And it'll be the same fence. It'll match the gate, both gates, the gate at Monument Street and the driveway gate. So I think I covered everything. Oh, we are going to, at the back of the house, you wouldn't even see this, but we are going to plant, I hope I say this correctly, 3 Malenshire trees. They're very pretty. I think it's also known as shade bush. And they have beautiful flowers and berries for the birds, and it's beautiful bark, and they're gorgeous in the autumn. So those will be along the back for a little bit of screening. And then, so that is the hardscape plan. And let's see. So for the carriage house, you asked for some modifications. We've taken the window down a size. It is based on Marvin clad ultimate windows that will be on the bungalow. And we went down a size for the windows on the carriage house.
Okay.
So this photo here that's come up, you can see our house. You can see a garden shed that belongs to 167 Monument Street. And you can see the top of Rob's Jeep right there. And the carriage house will go right into there. So behind those shrubs, yeah. And I had sent you other photos. Ramsey Gord had dropped in the elevation from all the private ways. So those are also available to look at. And those are just different structures that have been built along Monument Street.
Okay, so thank you, Martha. So let me just recap. The changes to the structure are the window sizes.
Yes.
And that's those are since the last time we looked at it. That's the window sizes changed. Okay. Okay, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Can we leave that up, Heather, just while we talk? I think what I'd like to do is go around the commission here and see what people think. So again, we're just looking at this particular design on this property, and you've all been to the property. We've seen the proposed ridge lines. I think you're now familiar with the massing. Heather, there was some, sorry, I interrupted you. Was that your dog? Yeah. There was some question about setback. I think we've resolved that's not an issue, correct?
No, it meets all the requirements of the town. I've met with Ray Matt a couple of times and
okay.
Everything's
so thank you. So I think what I'd like to do is go around and get people's impressions of what's being presented. So I'm going to go in order on my screen here. So let me just hang on a sec. The 5 voting members tonight are, pardon me, Luis, Nia, Paul,
Melinda and yourself.
Melinda and me. Okay, thank you. Sorry, drawing a blank. Okay, so why don't I start with our voting members. Melinda, can I pick on you first? You're first on my screen, but I see your video's off there.
Sure. Certainly there's a lot of improvements that have been made in the design since we took a look at this last. And I have also read the abutters letters thoroughly. I think tall fences is one of the things that we have very recently addressed, and that is something that the commission does not really like to see. I think we would prefer to see some tall arborvitaes planted in lieu of a fence, or some sort of landscaping screening like that. I don't mind the design. I don't think this is intended to be a rental. I have, I understand that this is a two-car garage rather than a one-car, correct? With the
It's
two
one-
doors?
The one car.
Oh, it's a one-car,
Yeah.
okay. But how come the drawing makes it look like a two-car garage?
I don't know. It's just a one car. I don't know if he made more narrow doors or, but
Well,
it's just a one, it only fits one car.
okay. I guess since it looks like two cars, then we start to go, well, geez, do you really need a 5-car garage as opposed to your existing 3 plus 1?
We don't have 3. We only have a 2-car garage.
Oh, you have 2. So this would be just a third.
Yes.
Usually it makes it look like it's going to be a 4th. And so I don't really understand that, because that is, even 3 cars on Monument is, it has been allowed, but it has often not been allowed. Let's put it that way. I don't have a problem if you were to do some screening other than the high fence.
The problem is we can't fit arborvitaes. We have a small lot.
Oh, I see
And
what
we-
you're saying. So
we
there's
can't-
not, and I missed the very beginning of
Yeah.
speaking, so you probably addressed that.
Yeah, we just don't have the space for it. They've
Huh.
done it on the property to the south has done it. They have more space, but it just won't fit. We couldn't do it.
I see. Okay. Without making an adjustment to either the location of the or the width of the building. It does disturb me that there have been so many neighbors who really don't want to see this from, whether it's Lang Street or from the public way for the bike path and not bike, but the trail. I wish there were a way to screen it somehow. And I hear what you're saying. I don't know what the answer to that is. But I do appreciate that the circular driveway is no longer there. I
Yeah.
like the size of the windows. I'd like to see those garage doors look like 1 rather than 2. And I guess that's my only comment at this point.
Okay,
May
thank you.
I ask something, Peter?
Sure.
I'm curious about the public way. I know all the public ways, and I know that has come up as an issue, but all of these houses in the neighborhood can all be seen more than this carriage house from public ways. 167 Monument Street is right on the bike path, and they have 30-foot ridge heights. So it's puzzling to me that that's an issue. I mean, 20 Lang Street behind us.
Well,
very
if I may, sorry, Martha, again, we're
Yep.
really just looking at your property. We're not
Right.
really not, I don't want to, I mean, I understand. And again, this commission does the best it can with the statutes and what have you, but we really do want to look just at your particular.
Right. And I want you to too, Peter.
So, all right. So thank you. Thank you, Melinda. Let me just keep going. Paul, you're next on my rotation. What do you think? You have to unmute yourself, sir. Or one of you. That's not, nope, still can't hear you. You may have to do your computer. There you go.
Computer.
But now you have to mute your phone. or something.
I don't.
There you go.
So can you hear me now?
Well, we're getting that echo, so it's your phone is still picking up or something. We can definitely hear
How
you.
can you hear me? No, my phone's on mute.
Oh, you have to turn. You actually have to hang it up, I think, or.
All right. The question is, can you hear me at all?
Oh yeah, we can hear you.
You can?
Yep. There you
Okay.
are.
Well, if you can hear me, that's great because I can't hear you
Oh,
without the phone. But
okay.
I think the owner here has done, the applicant, the owner has done a very good job of responding to the criticisms that concerned us and definitely concern the neighbors. I've read all of the documentation, all of the criticisms of the project. I've been over to Reformatory Trail. I've been over to some of the neighbors' homes to see those vantage points. And I really think we're at a juncture at which this should be approved. I think from the public way that is Monument Street, it's a relatively concise view that can be seen. And that's really the principal part of our issue. From Reformatory Trail, I mean, plainly there are other things in the neighborhood that are more visible. Yes, you can see this through the trees. I went there a couple of weeks ago, so a lot of the leaves are gone. And so obviously it's more visible than it's going to be in the spring. But I dare say people on Reformatory Trail are less concerned with the houses on either side than they are with the trail itself and the trees and the umbrage over the trail. So I don't think that's a significant detraction from this design. I think the height issue, you know, everybody wishes it was a little bit smaller and more proportionate, but the owners did reduce the height. It is in proportion to the bungalow that it's adjacent to, and I think it should be approved. They've reduced the size of the windows. I think the criticisms have been a little bit over the top. There's been some gang tackling here, in my opinion. And I think some of the photographs, quite candidly, are advocacy pieces, the red blotches and so on. While generally illustrative, I don't think are a fair and accurate representation of the vantage point. So with the reduction in size of the windows, with the brick paths, with the entryway to the garage that is defined now by grass on either side, with the brick walkway that comes from the street, the elimination of the circular driveway that was my principal problem with this whole thing from the beginning. I think it's a good redesign and I think it's entirely appropriate.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Heather, would you, Paul, you can't hear me, right? He can't hear me.
Now I have to call back in and mute so I can hear the hearing.
Okay. All right, I'm going to thank Paul in his absence. Luis, you're next on my screen, sir. You're muted too, though, somehow. There you are, I think. No. Maybe turn the volume up. Nope, can't hear you. No, that's still there. You know what? Let me see if this works. No, we still can't hear you. No, can't hear you, Luis.
Okay.
Or is that? Oh, there you are. There you are. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Your headphones were not working for some reason. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I can barely hear you a little bit, but at any rate, I've been trying to figure out exactly what are the issues with this design. And I've been trying to come up to formulate an idea of what is this eliciting such a vigorous neighborhood response and so forth. And after having done a lot of the same homework that Paul did, walking around and seeing it from many perspectives. I think the issue is massing. And massing is something, it's a concept that we have always gone against. And the problem is that this structure is a very well thought and actually aesthetically quite pleasing structure. But it's look, it's situated in the property in such way that, without any question, gives the appearance of massing of multiple structures in a lot that it's very large, but makes it look much smaller than it is. The impression that I had after looking at it was that if the structure was attached to the main body of the house in some way, you see, just by sharing a wall or something of that sort, then the issue will not be a problem. You see, there will not be an impression of massing. So I think that I've been able to hone the problem that has been reflected in the letters from the neighbors in the issue of massing. I think that that's the essence of the problem. Having said that, I don't think that we have any grounds into not approving this application because, you know, the structure fulfills all the requirements from zoning laws and other regulations. The structure is aesthetically pleasing and it's well done. And there's no question that the applicants have come a long way from their initial proposal to the current proposal. And I would certainly be much happier if the structure was a little smaller, if the roof line was below the roof line of the house, and so forth. But I don't think that in all fairness, we can dictate exactly what the preferences and the expectations of the property owners are going to be. And the issue of massing, to me, it's a problem, but it's not a problem that it's sufficient of sufficient magnitude for me to go against this application. So I would follow Paul and say that I will have no objections to it.
Thank you, Luis. Nia, may I pick on you next? But you have to unmute yourself. There you go.
There, can you hear me?
Yes.
I will admit to being completely confused and wonder if Martha would be kind enough to just clarify something for me.
Of course.
I'm searching back into the deep, dark past. And with this application, I believe you submitted what are called approved plans on the website, which is for the main house, the bungalow.
Yes.
And then I asked for and looked at the certificate that we, you know, the approval that we did way back in December of 2017. And the plans attached to the certificate are quite different, not from the bungalow side, but from the 1950s edition side. And I know you haven't done the improvements to the main house yet, but for me to consider this proposed outbuilding, it's very important for me to understand, number one, whether you're planning to go ahead with the improvements and renovations to the main house. And I know you would have to come back to us to get the certificate
Right.
extended again. But given that the two sets of plans were quite different, I mean, I'll be honest, normally if it's not COVID times, I would just dash down to the HDC office and go through the file and, you know, we wouldn't be going through this.
Right.
But given that the side of the building, which has the current 2 garage bays, is quite considerably different in the 2 sets of plans. And to me, that facade matters in terms of evaluating this application. I wonder if you could just clarify where we stand on that,
Okay.
please.
I can do that. Yes. And I totally agree with you. I think So what happened is we had the drawings that you're talking about when we first purchased the house in back in 17. We went before HDC, and our architect became ill with cancer and has since passed away. So we have our new architect, and there were some roof issues that we didn't know about when we went to HDC. So the roof line changed back to the original roof is what you see now. And then we had just thought it through a little more and had the architect do the drawings that you see now. So all of the drawings that you see now, and I do have to go back to HDC because they're similar, but a little bit different. We added a mudroom in the garage, and that's where you see that little roof line over the garage doors on the original house. So basically we lost our first architect and went back to the drawing board because construction drawings were not done. And we just had some new ideas and improved it a little more. And so what you see now is what will the restoration will be on the bungalow.
So by what you see now, since I'm just looking at what Heather had up, which is not what I'm talking about, is it the approved, the quote approved plans that are on the website? The approved, is it this? Is yeah, okay. That's so. Can we go to the garage elevation? Keep scrolling down one more. Okay, stop there.
Yes.
So is this what you are hoping to come back to HDC with?
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just,
I know
was
it's
going through all my old minutes and stuff
I
and trying
know,
to piece
sorry.
this together, and it didn't add up. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
I admit to having really struggled with this application. I unfortunately was not here for the second meeting. I was recovering from anesthesia, so I'm sorry I missed that. But I walk this neighborhood almost every day, and Monument Street, etc. And I guess for me, this property is all about the bungalow. And so for me, if we look at our guidelines, I like to think of what is appropriate scale and massing. I take the context of the bungalow as being the important piece. And what is bothering me is it looks to me that the proposed building is taking its massing and scale from the proportion of the 1950s building, which even you have said detracts from the site. So for me, I feel that the massing and scale is out of proportion with the bungalow. Don't get me wrong, I think the design of the building is very charming, etc. I'm just concerned about how it stacks up, particularly from the Monument Street aspect in terms of scale and massing. I also feel that, for a outbuilding, it needs to be clearly subordinate. I don't feel that's the case relative to the bungalow. Its fenestration and detailing needs to be understated relative to the bungalow. And I think even though you have reduced the size of the windows, they still appear to me to be bigger. So I feel again that it's bossing the bungalow around, not the other way around. I think has been mentioned by other commissioners. We are always concerned about multiple garage bays. To my knowledge, I walked up and down Monument Street. To my knowledge, the only house that has 3 bays is the house that you mentioned in your materials, which is number 66. And that house we passed, I think it was back in 2018, that particular garage replaced a garage and shed, is fully behind the house, not even 2 bays are visible from Monument Street. So to me, being able to see 3 garage bays on a house where, again, the scale to me that's important is the bungalow, is completely inappropriate. I'm thrilled with the new driveway turnaround, thrilled that you took out the circular driveway, put in the straight path. I think that's totally great. I agree with some of the other commissioners that I totally understand what you were trying to achieve with the board fence. And I love the craftsman detailing that you're working with. But in this district, we tend to see open fencing or low hedges so as not to obscure the view. I don't know of another property that has a board fence, and certainly not to the tune of 5 feet. Usually the fences are open and low. So I would suggest screening of some sort of evergreen shrubs to screen the parking area. And as far as I guess honestly, I realize I'm the odd man out here, but I really think this building should be a 1-story building. I think it totally dominates the bungalow, and to me, that's what matters. I think we're all trying to minimize, or we hopefully should be trying to minimize, the 1950s edition. And I know you've said that the arborvitaes don't fit, because I think it's less than 5 feet with the overhang. And all that tells me is that we are massing these buildings from lot line to lot line, which is strictly what we're trying to avoid. So I have to say, I'm really sorry, but I am not in favor of this.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Let me just keep going around the horn here. Kate. You have to unmute yourself though.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. I agree completely with Nia in that I'll say that I think the changes of the circular driveway coming out were terrific. And I thought the Martha Gray's inspiration photo was very charming and well kind of reinterpreted for her design. The design looks great, but even just looking at this drawing that shows the reduced windows in the proposed addition, the garage, or not addition, accessory structure, the garage does not look subordinate to the house. And even I understand that the proposed design meets the lot coverage ratio and things like that, but that's a townwide standard. That's not just an HDC standard, and our standard does have to include visual massing, and that's a concern of mine as well. And even my fellow commissioners who are willing to approve this design each remarked that they wish it were lower, that they wish the roof line were lower. Well, that's part of our job, because that goes with the massing. And it's a terrific design, and you've been patient about modifying things that we have raised in the past meetings, but I wouldn't feel comfortable approving this at its current scale, I have to say. So that's my piece.
Thank you, Kate. Abigail.
Hi.
Hi.
So first, let me just say, if you hear heavy breathing, I have an elderly Bernese Mountain Dog with me with a heart condition. So there's nothing untoward happening, but if you hear that sound, that's just the dog.
No sudden loud noises.
It's some loud, it can get loud. So I apologize in advance for that, but she's in the room with me tonight.
Okay.
So I agree with Kate and with Nia mostly. I think that the removal of the driveway was an improvement, and that the brick walkway with the front gate is appropriate and in keeping with both the style of the house and generally our guidelines for the district. So I don't have any issue with that. I think the addition of the fencing is at least at the height and kind of the solidity of it is not in keeping with our guidelines, particularly for the Monument Street district. You know, a 6-foot private solid privacy fence is usually something that we reserve for areas such as we've approved them on Main Street with properties backing up to the commuter rail line or something along those lines. But in this area where we don't have a substantial number of solid board fences, that height doesn't feel appropriate to me. And I have concerns about the solidity of the fence and a gate, which is also not really in keeping with what we've deemed appropriate, particularly for this district. I understand the desire for privacy and screening, and that's always something we need to balance. I think there are other solutions available that don't include a fence that I don't think would be appropriate under our guidelines. So I have an issue with that. I kind of echo the general sentiments that we like the design of the outbuilding from an aesthetic perspective, but it is simply, in my mind, just too large for the lot and in relation to the existing structure, particularly the roof line. Looking at it from this perspective that we're seeing, it really does appear not to be subordinate to the original structure. So while I appreciate the design of it, I would like to see it scaled down. I think that would be the most appropriate for this particular property in this district.
Thank you, Abigail. Catherine, I think you're last but not least. If I have to unmute you there. There you go.
So I appreciate what my fellow commissioners have said this evening, and I think everybody has brought up some very, very good points. I also appreciate the sensitivity that has been brought forth in the design of the new structure, and I think it's nicely integrated with the architecture of the bungalow. I do also agree, though, with many of my fellow commissioners that I'm still troubled, I guess, especially in view or in light of some of the comments and criticisms by many abutting neighbors that this structure does represent, a large massing, and especially I believe it's the west elevation, which abuts the rear neighbor, really does represent a pretty massive kind of facade of structure. And is this I guess one question, is this the elevation where because of I guess it's only like the 5 feet of setback, is there not opportunity there for like a large or high hedge or some kind of landscaping that could provide some screening, or is there not room for that?
There's not room for that.
So I think that would be, while not perfect, one way that could definitely soften visually that massing, especially for the neighbors looking at that elevation, that west elevation. I do also agree. I'm very happy to see the changes to the front. It has a much gentler, more pleasing aspect now. And again, I think this is really challenging in terms of trying to meet the programming and the goals of the homeowner, while also, creating a structure that is going to be, appreciably more subordinate to the house and just generally more proportionally and aesthetically pleasing. So that's really all I have to add.
Thank you, Catherine. Did I get everybody? I think I did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Actually, Heather, could you leave that up? Sorry. I think the only comment I'll make is that I appreciate everyone's input. I think for me, it's the north elevation that tells the story, because that actually shows, it's the page above, I think, not that elevation, or maybe it's down. Sorry.
Peter, there is an elevation that shows in a photograph. It shows you the apple tree that we have salvaged that conceals the carriage house from the driveway.
I hear you. Yeah.
If Heather Carey can find that.
I think it's the plans and elevations. I think it's that one. Is this not the one that shows?
I think it's in my homeowner response. There are 4 pictures, and there's one that will show it from Monument.
Yeah. Well, hang on a second. I just want to look at the elevation, the long elevation with the bungalow, and it's in the document. Is called 155 Monument Street, NE elevations 9/18/20. Whatever that one is. It's not that one.
So the bottom line is if you talk to the
It could be that one. That's the elevation right there, whatever you were just on before. That one. Can we see that whole screen?
This one?
Yeah. Can we see that whole picture? This is
It
what,
doesn't show the
oh, it
bungalow.
doesn't have
I
the
mean, it
bungalow.
doesn't show the,
Oh, that's weird.
no.
It's the third one down in the list on the website. Whatever that document is, that's the one. That one right there. The reason I want to look at this elevation is that this, I think this essentially encapsulates what the commissioners are all talking about, which is if you look at the north elevation from left to right, it goes from the original bungalow design back to the 50s edition. There it is right there. And then to the new structure. So the trouble is that the original bungalow design is super charming right up at the street. And then as the structure goes back on the site, it gets bigger and proportioned differently. And then the new structure, while I think everybody has pointed out is charmingly designed in and of itself, is responding to the last edition, which is keeping it from being subordinate to the original bungalow. And what I say is it's almost like the hat just wants to come down, like the gutter line wants to match, the top gutter line should match the front of the house somehow. So the whole thing should sort of settle. But anyway, that's just my opinion. So I think we've heard from all the commissioners. So I think what we should do is probably open this up to public comment. Since I don't think, unless any commissioners have additional comments. And what I'd like to do is, Mia, do you have a comment? You're raising your hand. Yes, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself though. There you are.
Peter, I just wanted to address the issue of the public ways.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is, the only issue of whether we can see it from the public way is simply so that when we look at the design of the new building, we are sure to address what, let's say, the side of it looks like, or the two sides that are possibly partially visible from Lang Street or from Reformatory Trail. It's not like it has to be totally visible. It's just that just informs us that we need to pay attention to the design of the building on those two sides.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
It's not a question of how much we can see or whether it's taller or smaller or whatever. It's just, it helps inform us.
Thank you. Actually, Dennis, I skipped over you.
Big
Why did I
mistake.
do that?
Big
Wait,
mistake.
you're muted. You're muted. You have to unmute yourself. No, you're still muted.
There you go.
There you are.
I'm
There you
unmuted.
are. Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to skip you. Go ahead.
That's okay. I'm not sure I'm going to add a lot one way or another. to the conversation. I'm starting to think about situations like this when it seems that there's a mindset that it's better to look at empty space that's not very attractive than looking at an attractive building. And taking a look at what's there now, it's nice open space, and I suppose people like the open space and like the fact that they look at sort of green. But I think the building's quite attractive, actually, and I don't have a huge problem with it. It is large on the property. I wish it were smaller. I like all the changes that were made. I wish they could rip off the 50s edition, but they certainly don't want to, and at this point. So I'm not opposed to this building. I'm not sure that it's quite there yet from some points of view that I've heard, where people think that they need to be pushed a little more. I have the question about the fence. Is it someone said it was 5 and someone said it was 6. What's the size of what's the height of the fence along the yard?
So do you want me to answer, Peter?
Sure, yes, go ahead,
Yeah.
sorry.
So there's a garden gate fence that's 4 feet at Monument Street. And
Right.
then I was trying to create a little courtyard with a 5-foot fence. I mean, I guess it could be 4 feet across the driveway, just to conceal any car that's parked there. The reason I added the fence is see the apple tree right where the cursor is?
Right.
I don't think you really want to I'm going to try to save a little bit of the green space there, maybe have some plantings, but we have this little apple tree right near our walkway that we're removing. And I just thought it would be sweet to have a little fence with a driveway gate. I thought it was kind of pretty, and it would, you have a lot of driveway because we need to be able to have people safely turn around and exit. And I just thought it would be a nice way to conceal.
Is there a fence along here too? You can't see what I'm saying. Fence along the boundary.
So then we're trying to create, we have a very small lot and we're trying to create a private garden in the back. We're open to different neighbors and, they can see right in. So it's just, we're trying to create privacy. We don't have room. You can see on the other side, the neighbors have put up a row of arborvitaes or something, and they have more space. But we just don't have the space to do that. They grow.
So how tall is the fence along the border? Again, I'm just trying to get all these heights straight.
So it's a 6-foot fence. And I mean, that's what I heard that the HDC liked. So that's why I picked the 6 foot. I thought that's something that was approved by HDC.
Peter, do we like 6-foot fences?
We don't really like anything. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way. I mean, we it depends on the site. I mean, we've looked at different height. We definitely don't like 8-foot fences, and we sometimes will ask the fence have a 2-foot open trellis top part. It depends. It absolutely depends on the location.
And Peter, I love those open trellis fences, but I just feel it just detracts from the craftsman details. It looks really sweet with a cape or a colonial. And I looked at hundreds of fences and I just thought the more simple, the better. Because we do have a lot of craftsman features and that's more, I don't know. I feel like a little more colonial or for a cape.
Okay.
With the open. So that's the only reason I didn't choose that. Would you be happy with a lower fence around the courtyard if that matched the gate at Monument Street?
I have no strong opinion about the gates and the fencing. I'd rather see planting than I would fencing in the front. And since I don't, Heather, is there a picture of what it would look like with the fence and with the gates closed and that whole bit? Do we have that?
Yes, yes.
Which plan?
It's in the plan that's up now. There's right above, let's see.
Over the next one down.
Yep, down one more, right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think cuts it up too much. I'm not in love with that whole idea. I know you're trying to to cover cars that are back there, but I don't really like that enclosure idea, which I think other people have said. That doesn't appeal to me at all. I'd rather see planting there if you want some kind of screening. But to sum up, I'm not opposed to the whole thing. I wish it were smaller, but I'm not as opposed as other members are, and I'm probably closer to Paul's comments than I am to others.
Thank you, Dennis.
Okay. Now, did I miss anybody now? Any other commissioners? Am I forgetting somebody? There's so many people here tonight. We usually don't have this many people at our meetings. All right. So Martha, you've heard the input. I think I'm not sure. Is it clear what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. So let me open it up to public comment. That's the way we do these. We'll ask for public comment and then we'll come back to the commission. So I just want to remind people we've been at this for an hour. I know I sound like our town moderators, but if you have new things to say about this submission, I would appreciate those first, or if you haven't spoken before. So let's see, I think we need to use the participants raise hand function if people are going to speak. And Heather, can you help me look at this?
Yeah, sorry, I stopped my video because my internet's unstable.
Okay.
But
That's all
I'm
right.
not seeing any. Does everyone know how to use the, okay, I see one from D. Garrett.
Okay. So I'm not sure what your name is there, sir, but why don't you go ahead? I think we have to unmute you though.
I sent him an ask to unmute, so he needs to unmute himself.
There you are.
Okay.
Can you tell us your name, sir, please?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, my name's David Garrett.
David Garrett.
We live directly opposite the property under consideration.
Okay, welcome.
And I wanted to expand upon the rebuttal, the letter that I sent to the commissioners that's on the website. And I've listened to everything today. First of all, I'll say that you know, the removal of the U-shaped turn-in that made this thing look like it was part of suburbia is fantastic. So I'm very happy to see that's gone. But beyond that, very, very, very opposed to this. I don't think this building belongs in this historic district. As many people have pointed out, it's not subordinate to the main house. And I kind of found it interesting that a lot of answers were, well, there's not room for that. There's not room to do that. Well, that's precisely the point. It's a small lot, and that lot is not big enough for this huge two-story building, which quite frankly is an apartment building. Now, it's been described as a carriage house, a garage, or whatever, but correct me if I'm wrong, it has a full bathroom, including a shower, which to me means that even if it's not going to be used as an apartment building off the bat, then it's set up to be so. I would have no objection to a true garage with it shouldn't be as tall, and I don't, but I understand they want an office, you know, to work there. That's fine. But an office does not require a full bathroom. In addition, another point I have is that it's so out of place for Lower Monument Street area. It's, you know, as I said in my letter, this district has a character like no other. And I know in one of the responses they said that precedent doesn't matter. I think precedent really does matter. If you go ahead and approve this apartment building, it sets a terrible precedent for others. And the way you maintain the historical nature of a district is not to set poor precedent. And so that's why I would like to see this totally cut down to size, turned into just a, literally a small garage. In addition, I don't really understand the issues about the size. As far as I understand, this is a 1,166 square foot building. I don't even understand how that would be allowed, even by zoning laws. But there's something about it, this is clearly an ADU because it's a separate building. It should be, if it's just meant to be a garage, then attach it to the house, as others have said. There's no room for a second building on that lot. It's right up against the other abutters. It just looks terrible. And I implore that as the commission, you reject this out of hand. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Other folks? Any other raised hands? I don't see any on the raised. Oh, I think I see Neela. You have that, Heather? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I asked her to unmute.
Yep, I'm unmuted.
Okay, thank you.
Should I go on video? I'm trying to, but.
You don't have to. I think just say your name for the record if you would.
Okay, Neela Srinath, and my husband
There you
Srinath
are.
Triple is also here with me. I think we echo very much everything that David mentioned. And also, I mean, I think 5 of the committee members talked about the concerns that we have in terms of massing and the fact that it's not subordinate to the main house. And another 2 members talked about the height issue, the issue with height. And I mean, we did a lot of research, looked at, in fact, like the historic district design guidelines. And, it says here, the scale of the garage should be clearly subordinate to that of the main house. And it is recommended that it be no more than 2 bays wide unless well screened or distant from the public way. Likewise, garages in any form may not be appropriate for prominent and highly visible sites, which lack any means of minimizing or otherwise screening a garage's visual impact on the streetscape. And this was important. I wanted to, go back and read the, the actual guidelines to see if anything had changed, and that would allow the approval of this particular structure. So I don't see that anything has changed here. And if, Heather, could you pull up the abutter letter, the last one from M. Walters and N. Srinath? I'd like to just go step to the photos there. And you can just scroll down to the photos, please. Oh, when it loads. Keep going down to all the photos from the public ways. This is taken directly from, this was from the Reformatory Trail. And this trail is frequented by a lot of visitors as well as locals. So, this is going to be filling up that whole area in the back. Please scroll down a little bit to the next few photos. Thank you, Heather. Whichever way you look at it, it's going to be a massive massing of structures in any view from, as you continue. These are 3 different points on the Reformatory Trail. You can see that. And if you scroll down, even from Monument Street, if you stop here, the apple tree, which looks lovely in the summer, the trees have fallen, and anyone walking, and we have so many visitors who go from, Northbridge all the way to the center. This is going to be, once again, this large structure blotting out this, the landscape. And it definitely, as 5 of the members have said, this is massing, it's not subordinate, it's going to look crowded. So, we have issues with this. And the concern is, because they're the small, as the homeowners have said, it's a small plot. There is no scope to put any natural barriers. For example, if it backs up to our house, there's basically 5 foot from the drip line of this construction to our property. So there's no way to put any sort of natural barrier in that corner. So these are the concerns that I think that have been reiterated by quite a few of the members here. So I would really, implore you to, looking at the guidelines and thinking about this beautiful area that we live in, the standards are higher than the rest of Concord, and for a good reason. So I would really, put it to this committee to, as many of you have already had those concerns about massing and subordination, that would factor into the way you vote. And
Okay.
one more thing before I finish, I think Mary Ellen, she's trying to get through too, but I don't think she knows how to raise her hand. So I think she also wanted to talk. But thank you very much for your consideration this evening and all the time I know all of you put into this.
All right, thank you. Heather, do you see any other raised hands?
Yes. I think Mary Ellen just unmuted herself.
Aha, all right. Mary Ellen, can you tell us your last name?
Yes, Mary Ellen Walters, and I live at 167 Monument Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to address the zoning bylaw here, zoning bylaw 32, because that applies now to detached buildings. It's not the FAR anymore for an attached addition. This would come under the new zoning bylaw 32. Now, according to zoning bylaw 32, it allows by right 750 square feet on a 20,000 square foot lot. That's what's allowed. Otherwise, you have to go and get special permission from the zoning board to go up to a maximum of 1,000 square feet. Now, there are two reasons, excuse me, there are two reasons, although the Grays are saying that they meet the 5-foot setback, which they do, and also the height requirements, which they do. They fail to meet the two major points of zoning bylaw 32, which is they exceed the 750 square feet by quite a bit, and their lot is undersized. Now, in terms of one other point, their lot is only 14,812 feet, and the building they have proposed is 1,166. And right now, the Grays are saying that, oh, they only plan to use it for their antique car. But the reality is that if this is approved under zoning bylaw 32, anyone who comes afterwards will have a legal rental apartment there. This is what this is. This is a legal rental.
Okay, I'm going to cut you off right there, please. This is not the Zoning Board of Appeals. We are not going to legislate zoning stuff in this meeting. That's not our mandate. We read your letter. Thank you. Okay, we got it. We got it. That's not, if this has been approved by the ZBA and the building department, then it's not our.
It hasn't been approved. I called the building department. They have not approved this. They have to go before the building department. So that is not the case.
Right. So that will come up when it goes for a building permit application.
Well, I would think the HDC would have stricter guidelines than if the building department, the zoning board doesn't allow this. I would think the HDC would have stricter guidelines that if it doesn't even fit the zoning rules, bylaws, how can the HDC have less strict rules? I've been here for 20 years on Monument Street, and that is simply not the case ever in going before the board. Either a one-car garage with a shed or an attached building is fine. That's what we have in the historic district, but this is unprecedented, and that's why we have so many neighbors opposed to it.
Okay, well,
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, I appreciate your comment. This is, we're not even necessarily, we're familiar with the zoning bylaws, but we don't, this is not where that kind of stuff is decided. We have to take applicants at their word. And the reality is that zoning and building regulations are blunt instruments. They do not always result in the best looking solution. They are zoning and building code requirements are a way of keeping buildings safe for general public use. They're not meant to be aesthetic guidelines. Unfortunately, we're saddled with the aesthetic decision, which is almost entirely subjective, which is why we're always on the hot seat, in my opinion. All right, let's see if is there additional public comment. Do you see any, Heather? Any raised hands?
You raise hand.
Not seeing any.
There's
Oh,
Stuart
that's
Wilson.
Stuart Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Stuart.
Let's see, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I just see a telephone for some reason, but I can fly blind here. I'd like to say something about massing, just add something on massing. A little while ago, Mr. Noble or Peter, you put up the north elevation, the one which had the new structure.
Yes, sir.
Added to it. And that is a strictly north elevation. And I was thinking about it, and you see a little gap in that picture between the new building and the present house. Do you have it up there? I can't see it for some reason. Well, it's okay. I guess Heather's putting it up. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. There it is. There's a gap. But the thing is, because the new structure overlaps, half of the new structure is actually behind the original building when you look from Monument Street. And what that means is that anybody ambling along Monument Street and enjoying the view won't see that gap. They'll see a single solid sort of surface of building all the way from the front door of the house to the back of the carriage house. Is that fairly clear what I'm saying?
Yes. Yep.
You sort of come in from an angle instead of what would be northeast, from the northeast elevation.
Right. You don't see this building ever in orthographic elevation. That's true.
Yeah, that's right. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any additional public comment?
Yeah.
I don't see any. Heather, do you see any?
I don't. Someone titled owner has his video on. I don't know if he's trying to talk, or.
Is there somebody else coming?
Well, I can't tell. Is somebody trying to talk? If you would just wave your hand, maybe, if you're trying to talk.
No, I'm not trying to talk. It's not me.
I'm going to stop your video.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think we've hit the end of public comment. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any other raised hands or people trying to get my attention.
All right, so I think we've heard the public's input. We've been through this project several times now. We've got, I think, are there any final thoughts from commissioners? I'm just going to do a visual. If you have any final thoughts, wave at me if you want to say something else. Or is everybody kind of, Luis and Melinda. Luis, why don't you go first? But you have to unmute yourself. There you are.
There have been very strong and persuasive arguments on all sides, and there's a recurring theme of massing, and I think that that's a very legitimate question, and that it's going to be a problem pursuing this project unless this massing is addressed. So I want to encourage the applicant to consider this input that has been provided and present an alternative design where the issue of massing is addressed. You see, I think that the proportions of the structure could be decreased without any loss to the usability or aesthetics. and that this would address many of the problems, because it's very difficult with the very persuasive arguments that have been exposed to just ignore the whole thing and say that this can go ahead. That's all.
All right, thank you. And Melinda, the final word.
So it occurs to me that if they were to decide that they would put their antique car in some facility other than on their own land and go with a one-story building so that they could have the office, that the abutting neighbors would still probably not be for this. They would still probably think that this was going to be too close to their property line. And yet when Paul brings up that our purview really does not include the public way in terms of blocking. Yes, they're not going to look at grass in that backyard. They're going to see a building, whether it's one story or two. It seems to me that really the more important thing is how it looks from Monument Street, not from whether the people who are walking or biking along see a building, whether it's one story or two. And I do also want to say that we don't have purview as to whether there is what's inside the building. We don't care if it's a shower or no sink. I mean, that just isn't important to us. So I find that the fact that that keeps being brought up to be not really so relevant. I also think when I look at these drawings that there will be a little bit of a telescope effect because the building is so far back. It is going, I think, I don't feel like the drawings are as 3D as they should be. I think it will look smaller from Monument Street because it's so far back. And then I think we'd have a little less, I don't know, I just feel like if this had had a model, we might have had a slightly different a visual effect from all this. I am not against it going forward. I understand what people are saying. I understand that the abutting neighbors do not want this, but I'm not sure that that means that it's not going to be for the historic district.
Okay. Thank you, Melinda. All right, so I think we have talked about this about as long as we can. So I'm going to bring it to a vote. So I would like to see if I can get a motion from, yes, Nia, go ahead.
Before you bring it to a vote, I think at the very least, we never vote on something without having actual specs of the garage door, which we don't even know whether it's what, I mean, we don't have a spec for the garage door.
It's not in the application materials?
Peter?
What's that?
It's Martha. It is in the original, the first time we put a package together for you. The garage doors are in there.
Then I apologize, Martha.
That's okay. It's a Craftsman, it's a
Yeah.
Simpson Craftsman door.
Now to pull it up.
Thank you.
It's, I think I did extrapolate. It's not entirely clear from the application package. It's the second to last page, I think.
So I see it listed on the specs, but I don't see an actual spec on the garage door.
Yeah, I don't see it either.
So it was attached to this. This is the, there it is.
That's just the door. That's not the garage door.
Is it down further? Is there a,
No, it's just your
no,
hardscaping plan.
it matches identical to that.
Well, it can't be identical because it's 3 panels, at least in the drawing. I think we'd need to see that submitted if this were to go forward. Okay, well, we'll note that in the application. But I'd like to see if the commission will make a motion.
Do we have specs on the fence that you're proposing now?
No, it would be custom built.
So can we vote on this with the application being incomplete, I guess is the question.
And if you do go forward with a vote, I'd like to make it clear that the elevations of the house that are shown on these plans are not being approved under this. She needs to submit a separate amendment request for those changes.
Yep.
I just want to make sure that's clear in the motion.
That's clear.
Okay. Well, I can't make any motions. So Paul, would you make a motion?
Yeah, I could, but I have a, I have a question really at this juncture. Are we out of runway in terms of the owner's ability to modify this? I mean, I think under the best of circumstances, everyone recognizes that what's been called massing is an issue. Is there any potential, rather than bringing this to a vote to approve it tonight, of any modifications that would reduce it in height or scope that might address really very strong neighborhood feelings and some legitimate concerns of my colleagues? I mean, I personally would approve it because I think we're going beyond what we should be doing here, and I don't like to see an owner micromanaged, but these are legitimate concerns. I mean, I have them too. There's no argument here. There's no way to look at this and somehow conclude that it's not a little disproportionate to the site. So I guess my question before we turn this into an all-out vote or something that may be divisive, is there room from the owner's point of view to take another crack at modifications without totally undercutting your purposes?
Thank you, Paul. It's difficult because the ridge height on our house is 23 feet. Usually a house is 30 feet ridge height. So in order to have storage for the antique car and then an 8-foot ceiling in an office, we can't go any lower. I mean, it's not like I have a 12-foot ceiling in there to play with, because I would have modified it. So because our house is so low, you know, we tried to design it to be in proportion with both, you know, the original bungalow and also the addition. So it's pretty hard to bring down the massing. You know, it's only a 270 square foot office, but I don't think you can really come down from an 8-foot ceiling. It wouldn't be much. And those are the two things that we need to make this house work, is storage for the antique car, and Rob needs a home office. And the other part of it is the bike shed to store the bikes on the side. So I think it would be hard to modify.
Okay, Paul, I think the answer is not at this time.
Yeah.
Say that again, Peter.
The answer is not at this time.
Yeah, okay. So,
All right.
in any event, I'll make a motion that we approve the application for certificate of appropriateness for the property at 155 Monument Street as modified and submitted to the commission this evening.
All right, will someone second that motion?
I would like to make sure there's a condition in there that final construction drawings are reviewed and approved.
Okay, well, let me amend the motion that any approval would be subject to submission of appropriate documentation and drawings.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and I'm going to do a roll call vote, but I think the easiest thing is to raise hands first. So I'm going to say all in favor and then all opposed. So on the motion Paul just made, all in favor, please raise your hand. And then I'm going to let you read your names. Melinda and Paul. All right, and all opposed? I think that's everyone else. Dennis? All right, the motion does fail, so I'm sorry to say this. Yes.
Can we go one? I'm having issues with my internet, so I can't see people's videos.
Okay, Melinda and Paul voted yes.
We need to have everyone say, call their name and they say.
Okay, so
yes,
let's do that again. Melinda.
And let's just do the full members.
Okay, Melinda.
Yes.
Aye. Paul just walked away.
Aye.
Aye. Luis, you're muted.
No.
And Nia. Nia, you're muted.
No.
And I am a no as well. And then let's just do the rest of the group. Dennis? Yeah, you have to unmute yourselves, everybody. Oh, you're still muted, Dennis. It's like a comedy of errors here. All right, Abigail.
I would say yes.
Okay, Abigail.
No.
Catherine.
I'm a no.
Kate.
No.
All right, so the application is not approved. I'm sorry to say. All right. So that is, I think we finish our business on 155 Monument Street for the moment.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Thank you all.
Okay.
All right, so thank you all for being so patient. We are now going to move on to the library, 129 Main Street. And thank you all for waiting and being so patient.
Bye.
So, what's that?
Goodbye.
Are you leaving, Dennis? Yes.
Dennis is recusing himself.
I can't be in this thing.
Thank you. Thank you. No checking CNN. All right, so we have the team here. Thank you all for being patient. I think you all know what we're here for. We're looking at just the parking on the library, which is now under construction. We have approved a scheme. And maybe, Jeff, if I could ask you to very briefly go through the application materials tonight. Now, what I understand is the library board has approved a scheme that is being submitted tonight for our consideration. That's what we're going to look at. And again, I just want to remind us all, not like we need another reminder, we're really only looking at this aspect of this project on this property. We're not looking at every other project in town, and we're not going to try to get the discussion too far ranging. So, Jeff, do you have any?
All right, thank you, Peter. I will go through the submittal very quickly. But I'll begin by thanking the commission for the feedback at the last HDC meeting. Since that meeting, we've worked with the architects and the engineers reviewing on-site parking option 5 and a combination design of one on-street and one off-street that was suggested by one of the commissioners, Paul. I'd also like to thank Jean Goldsberry and the Commission on Disability for scheduling a special meeting recently to discuss the various plans. And we have met extensively as a board to review that information, as well as the discussions, frankly, over the last year about accessible parking at the library. As was discussed at the last HDC meeting, we recognize that there are competing interests on the design alternatives. On balance, the library board feels that the on-street approved design offers the best accessible parking of the 8 designs presented. Tonight, our architect and engineer will describe that plan, which has been modified to provide an 8-foot on-street buffer on the driver's side. We hope that the commission will have sufficient information to vote on that design tonight. And with that, I'll pass it off to Michael and Josh, our consultant, to offer more specific information.
Heather, can we share screen or put that application up? Sorry to interrupt you, Jeff. Thank you. I just want to make sure we can see the drawings.
Yeah, I don't know, Michael, do you have something to share? Would you like?
I do, yeah. Is that okay if I share that?
Yes.
And I believe Josh Softy, who's our accessibility consultant, camera permission is not on, if you wouldn't mind turning that on. Thanks.
Hi, Josh.
So,
Hi, Peter. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
great. So I'm just going to start off very briefly by running through 2 of the options that came about as of the last meeting that we looked at, but we're not submitting, just to show you what we looked at and why we're not, why these ones were not selected. So the first is this previously called option 5. This was for 2 on-site spaces. And the reasons that this scheme wasn't selected are the number of drawbacks that we listed and discussed at the last meeting with any on-site parking having to do, especially with the backing up maneuvers near the pedestrian way and the difficulty of maneuvering out of the parking lot if the spaces are, somebody pulls in and all the spaces are occupied. This also has a slightly longer travel distance from the access aisle to the front door. And like all the other on-street spaces, it has more paved area and less area for landscaping. It was also our impression and the impression of the design team and the Library Corporation that the majority of the board seemed to indicate that an off-site scheme was preferable. But one of the major reasons that this scheme was not selected is that it's similar to the parking area at the Fowler branch. It's come to our attention that over the past 8 years, there have been 3 accidents in that lot. So that's something the library is looking to avoid replicating here. The next scheme that we looked at, and this came about from a suggestion from one of the commission members at the last meeting, was 1 on-site space and 1 on-street space. So we looked at this and this one has a number of issues. Again, like the previous option 5, this actually ends up with the parking spaces being farther away from the door than the scheme that we're submitting tonight. It also, we feel, it would be confusing with having these 2 adjacent parking areas. We'd end up with, like the other on-site options, with more paved area and less landscaping. This would also require taking 2 existing on-street parking spaces, so result in a loss of 2 parking spaces. But the major reason why we are recommending, or why we recommended against this one, is that we feel, in our professional opinion, that this is just not a safe scheme, with the potential for a conflict between somebody pulling out of this on-street space and somebody pulling into the driveway, as well as the fact that this access aisle really is not going to serve as a buffer in the way that it would in the scheme that we're presenting tonight, because somebody turning here would be able to pull into this access aisle while turning into the driveway. So I'm going to move on to, this is the scheme that we're presenting tonight. It's previously called option 2. That's what we refer to it as in this application, even though it's the only option we're presenting tonight. This is very similar in terms of the landscape, we'll get to that in a minute, as to what was presented and approved last fall. But we feel it's a significant improvement over the parking layout that we had at that time. As you may recall, in that plan, the parking was, we had a similar bump out, but the parking spaces were on the traffic side. You can see here, these are the striped lines of the existing parallel parking spaces. In this area here, this 23-foot area in the middle are the travel lanes. And then, so in that previous scheme, the parking spaces were here in line with the existing parking spaces with an 8-foot access aisle on the passenger side. What we've done here is to flip the parking and the access aisle so that we have parking spaces up against the curb with an 8-foot access aisle, and then we have a flush a flush sidewalk, so that would still permit a ramp on the passenger side to deploy and for someone to get out onto the sidewalk. So that would enable both someone getting out on the driver's side as well as someone getting out on the passenger side or from the rear in a rear ramp van to not have to step into the travel lane. So I'll quickly look at the landscape. What we're proposing here is a very minor change from what was approved last fall. We have widened the sidewalk, as I mentioned, to 8 feet, which resulted in the 2 trees and a few plants shifting a few feet further from the road. Just for comparison, this is a snippet of the same area as it was approved, and this is what we're proposing. So there's really very minimal change. We're also proposing, excuse me, sorry. We're also proposing bollards as we did last time. We're planning to reuse an existing bollard that you can see, a granite bollard that you can see in this location. We're planning to reuse that. Hopefully we understand that there were originally 2 bollards here, hopefully to locate the missing one and put those at the entrance of the walkway here, as well as adding bollards for a total of 8 granite bollards, about 6 feet on center space along the edge of the sidewalk and the grass area. It might look something like this, but the intent is to really have them match what's existing there. And then at this point, I'd like to just turn it over to Josh Safdie, our accessibility consultant.
Good evening, everyone. We've been helping the team work through these issues, and I know that there were questions about compliance of these spaces. And as we have dived into requirements with the design team, what we understand is that really what we're talking about complying with is the Concord Public Works Design and Construction Standards, which adopt a number of accessibility codes and standards, including the Massachusetts State Accessibility Code. I can confirm for everybody that this design, as it's been laid out, complies with all of those standards. And in fact, it goes a step further by providing this second means of exiting a vehicle on the passenger side. Basically, the striped access aisle on the driver's side would allow anybody who's actually driving their own car, for example, with hand controls, to lay their own collapsible wheelchair or to lay a walker or other device into that sort of protected 8-foot wide access aisle, get out of the car, and then go between the parking spaces and up the ramp, going through a flush condition all the way to the library entrance. And then on the library side, by lowering the sidewalk to the grade of the parking areas, somebody who's getting out of the passenger side of the vehicle would also be able to get out that way. Be happy to answer any questions that anybody on the commission has about the design, either from a compliance standpoint or from a functionality or use standpoint.
Okay,
thank you, Josh. So Peter, that's about it. I wanted to reinforce that the only change that from the approved design from last fall that the commission's reviewing tonight on this plan, as Michael described, is the sidewalk that's pushed slightly more onto library property to provide the on-street buffer space. We also have Nathan from GGD and our landscape architect, Kim Ahern, on the call tonight, and we're all available to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. And I do just want to point out before we discuss it as a commission that, you know, there's been some crossing of lines between the HDC and the Commission on Disabilities, which I think is unintentional all around. We are, the HDC is not against accessible parking. The HDC is not trying to be obstructionist, and I know the Commission on Disabilities is not being draconian either. We're just trying to find the best solution for this project on this site at this time. So let's go around and see what folks think. Can I go in order on my screen, Melinda, and pick on you first again? But you have to unmute yourself. So what are your thoughts about this proposed scheme?
I only have one word, and that's bravo.
Bravo. Okay, thank you for being brief. You get the gold star tonight. Kate, can I ask you to speak next?
There, hello?
Yes, there you are.
Okay, yeah, hi. Jeff and everybody, thank you so much for this reworking, and it looks like a really good plan, and that you've addressed, you know, a lot of things. So thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Paul.
No comments, Peter.
No comments. Okay. Thank you. Luis.
Good job.
Wow, this is, you know, either something happened. Did something happen while this meeting was going on? Is everybody trying to get on to CNN or something? All right. Dennis, you're off the board here. Nia.
This is fantastic. Checks all the boxes, totally appropriate for the site and for the district. Thank you very much for going above and beyond.
Abigail.
I do have a question. I'm going to be the one who has to say something. I mean, someone had to ask something. I just have a question of clarification. How many of the granite bollards are going to be installed, and what is the purpose of those? What's their function?
So the granite bollards would be a total. Our thinking is that there would be a total of 8. We could also do 6. We're basically looking at them just as an additional protective measure. They're not required, but there's something we'd like to, you know, just make sure that we have because the sidewalk is flush. Unfortunately we can't put the bollards from a safety standpoint. We can't put the bollards on the traffic side or on the parking side of the sidewalk, because that would prevent somebody from getting out on the passenger side onto the sidewalk. But we're putting them there just as an additional safety measure between the sidewalk and the grass. But the thinking is 8, like I said, and they'd be spaced at about 6 feet on center. We could also do 6 at 8 feet on center is the other that we looked at.
No, I don't have an objection to them. I just wanted to understand their purpose. I think this is exactly what we had asked for, and it meets both the programmatic and code requirements of the library and the town, and it meets our guidelines in terms of what we approve for appropriateness in terms of accessibility. So I'm quite pleased.
Thank you, Abigail. Catherine.
I think in a lot of ways, we have come a bit full circle here, but for all the best reasons. I studied all the iterations and all the options and plans, and I know this has come out of a lot of analysis and study and multiple considerations. So I too am just delighted that we are sort of back with refinements to a little bit of where we started many months ago. And I think it's an excellent plan and solution.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's see, did I miss anyone? Did I get everybody? Let's see everybody on my screen. I think that's everybody. And I just want to reiterate that I also think this is, well, it's an improvement on the originally submitted scheme that we've approved already. And I think, Catherine, you probably just said it the best. We've gone around in circles debating the merits of stuff that actually isn't technically in our purview, but we've arrived at a solution, I think, which probably the not nice way to say it is it leaves everyone equally unhappy, or it meets everyone's agenda to some degree. It's appropriate by code and statute. It meets some convenience requirements and leaves others to be desired, but it does provide two adjacent, fully accessible spaces adjacent to the building. So, unless commissioners have any more to say, I'm going to open it up to public comment. So, and again, I'm grateful for all of you for waiting until this late in the evening, but if you have if the public has any comment on the proposed scheme, we'd love to hear it. And I apologize to everyone if I lost my temper on that last application a little bit, but we're going down a rabbit hole there on the zoning stuff, so sorry.
Just a reminder, if you have a public comment to use the raise your hand function.
Yes, so can people use the raise your hand function? Is that clear where that is?
No.
It should be, if you're using an iPad, I believe it's on the top of your screen. On a PC, it should be on the bottom. I think you have to open the participant window, correct, Heather? And then select raise hand.
Or you can just start talking, or, okay, we have Ned Perry raising his hand.
Hi, Ned, welcome.
Hello, Peter.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, well, they're not allowing me to open my camera, so that's part of the problem that you all have with this hearing process.
There you are.
I said at the last meeting that you all had approved 10 plus parking spaces at the Concord Museum. Actually, what you all did was approve 22 parking spaces at the Concord Museum, plus 2 handicap spaces. As we've discussed before, the driveway next to the Haywood Benjamin house, which was a historic house, which you all have allowed to be destroyed, has been there for 200 years, and now you're not allowing it to be used for parking. This is just an unbelievably discouraging turn of events, and the HDC goes up and down, and this is one of your turns down. I hope that you will recognize the Commission on Disability and let them tell you about their vote earlier this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ned. Jean, I think I see your hand raised. There you are.
Hi, good evening. Yes, the Commission on Disabilities has spoken with you at a couple of your meetings about this situation, and we've spoken with the Library Corporation at numerous meetings about this situation. We're most distressed about the concept of not having on-site parking, which we feel is the safest alternative for people with disabilities. And so this evening we voted unanimously. The Commission on Disabilities does not approve of the parking plan as presented by the Library Corporation, which includes on-street parking only. Although the proposed plan meets ADA standards, it does not advance the spirit of inclusion for citizens of all abilities. We further recommend that no Concord Board or Commission approve any library plan which does not include on-site parking. Any handicap parking should be marked as reserved for library patrons.
And that was the unanimous discussion at our meeting this evening.
Okay, thank you, Jean. Is there other public comment? Meryl Schwartz, I see your hand is raised. There you are. Okay.
I'm here.
Welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that I've tried to attend most of in fact, probably all of the numerous discussions regarding parking at the new library. I feel strongly that the time has come to enter the real world of what it's like to have limitations. Concord is no longer in the 1800s, and though we can certainly try to make it look lovely, which is under the purview of the HDC, I feel like we haven't addressed the needs of the community, and am extremely disappointed in the fact that we have tried to make our points of view clear over months and months, and it seems to have fallen on deaf ears. We're really interested in helping the community, which is our charge, understand that all people have abilities, and we simply are not addressing this by this very limited point of view in parking. It needed to be an on-site space, and it could have been done with really more thought. And I'm just very disappointed that everybody seems to be so enthusiastic, except for the disability community. Thank you.
Thank you, Meryl. We hear your disappointment. Let me see if there are other folks with hands raised. Is it clear how to use that hand raise function if you'd like to raise your hand?
And if you can't figure out the hand raise function, just unmute yourself and start speaking, or
wave.
Wave.
Okay, Janet Byer. I don't know.
Janet, welcome.
Thank you. I don't have anything additional to add to what Jean and Meryl said, but I just think that as we age, as the population ages, more and more people are going to need ways to get into public buildings. And it is our duty, it is your duty as a committee, it is our duty as a commission also, to ensure that we look to the future of our own lives when we will need assistance getting into buildings. And we don't want to have to go back in 10 or 15 years and say, gee, we should have made this a little bit more accessible because now I'm in a wheelchair and I can't get into the library. I just want you to look to the future. Look to your own future. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any additional public comment? I'm looking around. Don't see any hands raised. You see any, Heather?
Nope, I'm not seeing any.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to bring it back to the commission here. You've heard the public input. Again, we are voting on the scheme put before us, which is a change. It's a modification to the approved scheme of on-site parking. It creates a bigger buffer between the street and the parking spaces, but does not push the parking onto the site. Is that clear to everyone? Okay. So I'm going to look for a motion on this application. Nia, do you have a question?
No, a motion.
Okay.
I move that we approve the application for 129 Main Street to amend an existing certificate of appropriateness to include parking, landscaping, hardscaping, and lighting changes as revised to be option 2, dated October 30, 2020, as submitted.
Can I get a second on that?
Second.
That's Melinda. All right, and I'm going to go around the horn, and I think maybe I'll do it differently. I'm just going to go by commissioner. If you approve, say aye. If you do not approve, say no. Let's do it that way. So, Melinda.
Aye.
Paul, you just walked away, but what would you say, Paul?
Getting my phone. Aye.
Are you an aye?
Aye.
Luis.
Aye.
Aye.
Kate.
Aye.
Abigail.
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
And I'll be the one holdout as a no. So the application does pass 4-1. Dennis abstaining.
I didn't say aye, but I am an aye.
Oh, I assumed you were because you made the motion. Sorry. All right, so the application as submitted passes 4-1, and we are done with this particular application this evening. So thank you, team, and thank you, folks, for attending.
Thank you, Peter, for voting no.
Thank you for your feedback, and thanks to everybody who's offered their thoughts on this plan, and we hope it'll work out. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, gang, it is 9 o'clock, and we have the poor folks from 51 Lang Street have been hanging out here for 2 hours. It usually doesn't go this way. We had 2 long discussions tonight, so you got to see all of our dirty laundry there in a way. All right, so this is our last item for the evening, and I've lost my agenda. So this is 51 Lang Street. Is it Matt Werner?
That's right.
This is an application to install an in-ground pool with stone facing and auto cover, install a fence enclosure with a gate, construct a storage shed addition on an existing garage, and install lighting and stone pathway. And just so you know, you probably know this already, we're going to need a site visit for this application. So we may discuss it a little bit tonight. We'd like you to run through it, but we'll probably discuss it further once we can see the situation on the site. So welcome. And would you mind running us through it briefly, the application?
Yeah.
You want to do the honors?
Not really? Okay. So the pool will be 10 feet by 19 feet. We have it positioned in the center of the yard as the plot plan will show. And we have I don't know if you might be familiar with our very large magnolia tree that will sit, that is currently on that side of the yard. And we've taken care with the arborist and everybody to make sure that that tree will not be impacted. So the same stone that we have in the front of the house will be used. It will be about, I think, 24 inches. It just depends on, the slope of the property. It may be a little bit taller in some spaces. And the pool will be 3 feet deep. I don't know how much detail you need, to about 5 to 5 feet deep in the deep part, and it will have an auto cover.
All right.
Sorry, Peter, I have a quick question.
Yes, of course.
What does your house back up to? There's another house, right?
Monroe, yeah.
Is this pool even visible from a public way?
It is. We do not believe it will be, no.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
I
So
just
it's really
looking at
just,
it, I thought this doesn't
yeah,
seem to be,
it's just the building portion.
yeah, the shed, but the pool doesn't seem to actually be
So
visible.
should we just talk about the shed?
Yeah, in fact, I'm
Okay.
sorry, I should have reminded you, everyone, that are we really only supposed to look at things that can be seen from the public way? But thank you. for
I
that.
don't know if it'll be visible from Bow Street at all, but, so just a note.
Yeah, okay.
Right. It wouldn't be, if you look back at the picture, you can see the plantings.
Yeah,
And the neighbors have a fence as well, but you see the plantings there. You can see the magnolia that Jenny referenced.
Okay, so maybe tell us about the building piece.
Yeah, so I'm feeling like my application is a little bit amateur. But so
No, it's actually, it's well done. It actually is logical and makes sense.
Oh, thank you. So we have two things here. So there are two pieces to it. One of them is that we need a place to house the pool equipment. And so that's what you're looking at right now. This structure needs to be 5 feet by 10 feet to be able to accommodate the equipment. And initially, so this is a little bit different than what we submitted, because initially we were thinking we would just use cedar fencing. It wouldn't have a top on it. The fencing would be kind of open, like just a enclosure for the equipment with a gate. But we spoke with our neighbors behind us, and they had some concerns about the noise of the equipment. So we've since decided to have it as an extension of the shed, which the elevation actually shows, and it's the back piece of it. I'm pointing, but you can't see where, yes, an extension off the shed, and it would have the same siding and roofing as our existing garage structure, same color and everything, and then just have the doors on the back of it. And then it will be vented to accommodate the need of the equipment.
Okay, pretty straightforward. Same siding, same roofing. I think that's in the package.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the front elevation, as you can see, is really the only side that's visible from Lang Street.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to go back up to or over to just to see the view from the street. So that will be, well, and that shows like it will be set back off the garage by about 2 feet, I think. And so it will be basically where you see the Tensilance house right now, you would see the shed structure. It will be 11 feet by 14 feet. We have an ornamental cherry tree there, so it might be a little bit smaller than that. We don't want to damage the root system, so that will be taken into consideration just to make sure nothing happens to that tree. And then this is also a little bit updated. I initially had doors on the left side as well as on the front. But since talking to Elise Stone, we really will maximize the storage space inside if we just do the double doors on the front instead. So we've moved to that design at this point. And the doors will be the same color as the existing doors, and all the siding and the lighting will be consistent with what's currently there.
Okay. All right.
And then
sorry.
Oh, and then I was
Good,
just going to
good.
say, and then we haven't totally decided, but there may or may not be some bluestone stepping stones out front just to make it easy to get things in and out, less messy.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, no, this is actually a very complete application. Thank you. It lays it out logically. It points it out in several different ways. So thank you. We always appreciate a nice complete application. All right, so we are going to just want to come and take a look on site just to see it in context. So before I even open it for discussion, we meet again in 2 weeks, Heather, 21st.
We meet on the 17th or the 19th. The 19th, sorry.
What day of the week it is. All right, so can we just, before we go further, can we set a site meeting? Will you be there at 8 a.m. on the 19th. Would you be available, Matt and Jenny? Or
Given the,
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
given the current circumstances, one of us
Let
will
me
be
check
here.
yes.
Okay, and I think we are allowed now to show up as a group as long as we all stay 6 feet apart from one another and somebody brings donuts. I'm just kidding about that part. Sorry, it's been a long day. All right, so let's see if the commissioners have any questions about the application, then we'll just ask for a motion to continue. Luis, any thoughts, comments, questions?
No
You're
comments,
okay?
no
Okay.
questions.
Paul,
Thanks.
Paul, how are you doing? No, Nia?
No question. Looks pretty
questions?
straightforward.
Okay, Abigail?
No, no questions.
Kate?
No questions, looks appropriate.
Melinda?
No comment.
Dennis? You're muted, but I see you shaking your head no. And Catherine?
That looks good.
Okay, so Matt and Jenny,
Does
this does,
feel like a site visit is necessary,
do we think it is?
given no comments?
I don't
Well,
think there's a need for a site visit, frankly. I don't know why we're doing a site
Oh, I just like to get out every once in a while, Dennis. Come on, man.
visit.
No, I
Put
think
your suit, Peter, put your suit on. Come on over anytime.
it's a, what, my bathing suit or my suit? Because I haven't pulled either of them out.
Yeah,
Don't
whatever
even
you-
go there.
Oh, come on, Nia. I've been working out. Well, it's a very good question. I personally, looking at the application, don't need to go look. I can tell what it's going to look like almost.
Yeah.
I
Is
don't
there
need to
any-
go.
Okay, well, let me look at the voting members. Any need to go, Paul? Do you want to go see this site? No? Luis?
I would like to go outside, but I don't need to go and see the site.
All right. So I think we're going to just skip the site visit because it's such a small thing. Now, my only question is, just because of what we went through 2 applications ago, are your neighbors all taking issue with, because they're okay?
Yep,
Yeah, they're fine with it.
they're
Um,
supportive.
I have a question.
Yes,
Please.
Nia.
I mean, if we're going ahead tonight and not waiting for a site visit, which I'm totally fine with, what do we do about these little details which aren't decided yet? Do we do that administratively after the fact or what? I mean, it seems like there were a couple of things that are up in the air. You know, the stepping stones, the size of the shed, the, what else was there?
Well, I think what we would do, if I may, Nia, is we
Yep.
would require, are you going to do final drawings for this, Matt and Jenny? Is your architect going to do drawings, or what do you think?
So to be honest, because it's just a shed, it's gonna be unfinished on the inside, and we were trying to do as minimal, like, drawing work as we had to do. We can have it done. And since we're using all the same materials, I mean, the door, I don't have like a specific door picked out. So that I guess that's a piece. The windows will all match. Actually, there isn't even a window on it anymore. So I can pick out a door and submit that. And then we haven't worked out specifically what it will be like in the front, like if we have a ramp for a snow blower and stuff like that. If it was like a little stone or grass ramp, or if it's like gonna be a blue stone, that stuff, I think we do have some little details like that are not worked out.
I think what we could do is, if they decide, we could ask them to submit the specs on the door. And then if they decide to add the bluestone stepping stones or some sort of ramp, that they submit an amendment request.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
we do need to have the size nailed down, though. I mean, that's
Size of the addition.
yeah.
I agree.
That I
Is
think
it-
is important.
Can we submit it approved as is? And then does it matter if it's smaller? I mean, it would only be slightly smaller. It wouldn't be, can you do like a maximum?
Well,
How close does it have to be? I mean, it's
Well,
a matter of like inches. We just don't want to hurt the tree, but
well, let me ask a question. You do have to apply for a building permit, correct?
yeah.
So the builder is going to have some kind of a drawing or something that says size and height.
It would be this.
Yeah, it would be
yeah.
the drawing as is. The only potential issue again would be the root system of the tree. So if we had to go smaller, we would. But I guess he would resubmit that during the building permit process, probably.
Yeah, they'll ask, they want to make sure it's safe, that it's not going to fall down on, so they'll want to know specifications about the lumber sizes and what's the foundation. And so I guess what I'd like to do is see whatever's submitted to the building department just to make sure it matches our understanding of what we're approving tonight.
Okay.
Because I do think you are going to have to submit, or your builder is going to have to submit some kind of a diagram that says sizes, shapes, pitches, materials.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Peter?
Yes.
Just a quick question. Just clarification. And I don't have the plan in front of me. Does every door have to have a light fixture by it? Does this door need a light fixture?
There is a light fixture to the left of the door.
Mm-hmm.
The garage doors.
Well, there's one on the garage doors, and then there's a small one on this side. If you go to the elevation, any of them actually.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Well,
there it is.
Similar to that.
That's a similar. That's
the inspiration.
That's the front elevation from Lang Street.
I didn't have it in front of me, so I couldn't tell. Good.
Okay, I forgot there were elevations. I apologize too. There they are. Okay,
Yeah,
so the elevations.
Looks fine.
So those drawings do show the size. Who asked
Yes.
about the size? Okay, so there it is. Elevations. Okay, never mind.
No, it's just if they were going to change it. That was it. That was the issue.
So if you change it, I would just ask that you resubmit this to make sure we see any changes and that it matches our understanding. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I lost track of that. Any other questions from commissioners, or are we?
Remind me about the fence. What is the fence? I'm just looking at the application.
There's no fence anymore. We replaced it with the it's the enclosure. If you look at back on the elevation, you see a slightly different roof line. This is where Jenny talked about needing to enclose the pool.
Okay. So this is not a fence with a fence around the pool.
No.
No. It's that's the pool equipment.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm losing it.
No, it's okay. It does say fence in there. It does say fence.
It's confusing.
We changed it per the neighbor's request, and the
Fair
pool
enough.
has an auto cover.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right. So, any other questions, or can we go proceed with a motion? I think we're going to buy.
Is there any public comment?
Right. Public comment. All right. So 51 Lang Street, is there any public comment from the remaining stalwarts in the gallery? I see none. Let me check for hands raised. See a whole lot of nothing and tumbleweeds. All right. I think we can go for a motion if someone would make that motion for me, please.
I move that we approve the application for 51 Lang Street to install in-ground pool with stone facing and auto cover. I don't know what we're calling this, install fence enclosure, because it's no longer that, right? Construct a storage shed addition on existing garage, install lighting and stone pathway, with the understanding is if any dimensions change, or if that you submit the building department.
We're with you.
Whatever. And if you want to do anything with stonework, et cetera, that you come back to us.
Okay.
It won't say whatever in the final motion.
Yeah, it won't say that. She'll clean it up.
And that you submit the specifications on the door.
Yes, the door.
That too.
Okay.
Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Melinda. All right. All in favor? I'm just going to go around the horn. Melinda.
Aye.
Aye. Paul.
Aye.
Luis.
Aye.
Mia.
Aye.
Kate.
Aye.
Abigail.
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
And Dennis.
Aye for my non-vote.
And I'm an aye as well. So you got unanimous approval on that one. So
Yay.
thank you. And Heather will communicate with you about the next step.
Okay,
Great.
thank you
Thank
so
you all.
much.
Thank
Have a
you
good
for
night.
waiting. Thank you for being
Yeah.
so patient. All right, kids. All right, we just have a little bit more further to go before we can sleep. I think we're going to go yes, Rosalind, Tom, help me. What is this thing called at our campus? The Right Tavern is here to brief us.
Hello.
And hi,
Yes, the Right
Rosalind.
Tavern.
Welcome. Now
Hi.
this is just a, hang on a sec.
I can fill you in, Peter.
Yes, this is just
We are-
well, it's on our, so this is, there's some CPC grant going in, Right Tavern.
Yep.
You're just looking to tell us what the application is about.
And one more thing, we are hoping
Yes.
to make this, we want to get a prize for the shortest presentation tonight. We are coming to the HDC to formally request a letter of support for our application to the CPC. We currently have promises of letters from the Concord Museum and from Minuteman National Park, and we are looking for additional letters of support for the application. Briefly, if it's all right with you, what we'd like to do is screen share. And I'd like to tell you that I am here as a trustee of First Parish Donations. I've met most of you before. Hello, hello, nice to see you. And therefore a trustee of the Right Tavern, along with Laura Bernstein, who's also a trustee, and Holly Kratzley, the author of the application to the CPC, and Tom Wilson, who is the chair of the Right Tavern Futures Task Force. Is it okay to share a presentation? That would be to Tom Wilson, giving him screen share
Can
permission.
you do that, Heather?
Yeah, he should have permission.
All right, great.
Okay,
Permission,
Tom, pop it up.
You got it.
So we're going to move really quickly through this. You have seen some of these slides before. Go next slide, Tom.
Yeah, just a
Now,
minute.
can I just ask a question? If representative government fails in the next week, do we have to go back to the Right Tavern to start over again?
Yes, we
Of course,
do.
of course.
Absolutely.
You're
Absolutely.
absolutely
Of
right.
course.
Sure.
Yes, we do.
Exactly what has to happen.
Yeah.
So let
And
me
Tom,
run.
I'm gonna have you move your cursor, please.
Okay. How's
See
that?
that? See that? Nope. See the arrow in the middle of the word tavern?
No.
Nope. I
Nope.
don't-
All right. It's Heather. It's yours. Can you
I think
move
it's
it,
your tavern.
please?
It's yours. All right, let me go
Yeah,
on.
Heather, can you move it?
Mine's
I
off
don't-
screen.
Yeah, there's,
I think it was on yours was one. So
Okay.
anyway, I
All
don't
righty.
give you
Okay.
too much into the background because many of you know of the historical significance of the Right Tavern, both in terms of the first provincial Congress as well as what happened on April 19th. So it's a very important one. And in the late 1800s, it was given to the First Parish for safekeeping, of which we've done and continue to do maintenance. In the mid 60s, it was designated as a National Historical Monument. And coming up starting now and going through 2026, probably 2027, a celebration of the 250th founding of our country. So the Right Tavern and Concord is going to be very much active in that whole celebration process. And as part of this whole history, First Parish decided to set up a Right Tavern Futures Task Force to look at what to do about the First Parish, about what to do about the Right Tavern. And because it's a building that we feel very responsible for and are encouraged, and we want to do some things with it in terms of bringing it to the public interest. Just to tell you a little bit about the task force and kind of what our plans are. Our mission, our vision, if you will, is to reveal to the Concord's Right Tavern as a key location in the founding of our country. In other words, we want it for the Right Tavern to take its rightful place in the history of Concord. But now it's been used for offices, and off and on it's been open to public and not. We had a good relationship with the Concord Museum a number of years ago, or for a number of years as well. And, and we want to sort of look at a whole new future for what we want to do with the Right Tavern and make it something, as I said, can take its rightful place in Concord's history. So the mission of our task force is to develop partnerships with organizations that will really help us fulfill this mission. And we're looking for programs, for funding, for a lot of other things. And you'll hear more about that in a second. We want this up and running, whatever we have, so that we're really prepared for the celebration in 2024 for the Provincial Congress. Here's the people that are on the task force. There are 9 people representing a variety of both members of First Parish as well as trustees. And we also have 5 teams, of which a total of about 20 more people working on doing research and development. So this is a major, major effort for First Parish, and we are expanding our involvement, but to get well beyond the peoples who are just First Parish people, to get people from the community involved as well. We have a plan, if you will. It's a 5-year plan where we are develop these task forces, and each one of them is going to be looking at different areas. You can see what those points are, what their areas of focus are, and that our 5-year plan this year, our emphasis is on research and exploration to find out what's out there, to see if there are models out there, so we can think very openly and creatively about what we want to do with the building. And then in next year, we'll be reaching out to organizations and other kinds of individuals to form partnerships and support we'll hopefully consummating relationships in terms of contracts in 2022, that leading to the implementation of that, the celebration in October, and further celebration in 2025 for the celebration of Patriots Day on October 19th. Our current priorities are really 3 things. One, Rosalind mentioned before, we're going to talk some more about that in a second, is that we've made a proposal, we've hired a number of studies. We've put together a number, we've done some proposal for preparation, did a lot of, once again, looking for organizations that help us really deal with the urgently needed repairs to the infrastructure of the building. We're estimating at this point that the cost of that will be close to $750,000, and our proposal to the CPC is around $500,000. We've planned for additional fundraising later in 2021 with the idea that it would hopefully be approved in the town meeting next summer, and that we could begin construction in 2021. So that's what's happening with the building. We have these project teams that are going off and trying to look at good models, and we hope for sometime after the first of the year, after we've done our research, to say, let's figure out what we want to do. Do we want it to be a full, just the first floor open? Is the whole thing? What kind of relationship we want to have? There's many, many ideas we're thinking about. And the third thing we're doing is we're actually in the process soon to develop set it up as a separate 501c3 organizations, Friends of the Right Tavern, similar to other Friends of organizations, who will have the responsibility for managing the contracts, funding, long-term governance of the Right Tavern. So I want to turn this over to Rosalind, talk a little bit about what the recommendations are going to entail in terms of the infrastructure work. So Rosalind, you want to pick it up?
Yes, so last summer of 2019, we had the first ever building inspection performed on the Right Tavern. Of course, the tavern's been maintained and repaired over the years, but we'd never had a professional come through. And that professional found some pretty striking things, which caused us to then have a structural engineer come in and do a very thorough structural engineering review of the building. And we discovered that, not surprisingly, a building of this age has some structural issues that, while not critical in the next 1 to 2 years, would potentially put the building at risk if there either was a major issue in Concord, imagine an earthquake or a hurricane or some other environmental disaster, but more importantly, over longer term. So for the longer term sustainability of the building, we would like to conduct a 6-month effort to reinforce and repair this lovely building. And what I want to show you right now is scary pictures of bad stuff. So sagging rafters, sagging girders, next slide, cracks along chimneys, sagging timbers. I don't know if you can see in the right-hand photograph that right above the doors, the sag has now caused the space to shrink. Next one. massive evidence of past water damage, cracked and missing plaster. This is bowing in the 3rd floor attic, which is thankfully only used for storage right now. But the bowing is quite significant and represents damage to both cosmetic damage and structural damage. Next slide. Framing failures, weak repairs that were performed along the way, cracks and bowing, further evidence of framing failure. The failures, by the way, most of them are just the normal things that happen with older buildings. You know, even more than we do what happens with older buildings. But what we also found in these reports was that past repairs are themselves now failing. Next slide, Tom. In the basement, we found lally columns that are not attached to the beams they're supposed to be supporting, or they're not attached to the floor, or they're not supported. We have joists that have no bearing or are cracked and show significant damage. Next slide. So what we want to do is repair the building comparable to the kinds of repairs that happened at Lexington's Buckman's Tavern, which, by the way, came in 1914 at over $950,000. We're estimating our repairs this year, well, next year, at about $750,000. We've applied to the CPC for $500,000 for this, and we plan to raise the additional funds. None of the repairs that we are currently talking about will have any visibility from the exterior of the building. The construction, the repair process will. We've discovered that we have a very inadequate drain pipe from the back of the building out through the front to Lexington Road that needs to be repaired or replaced. It's a lead pipe. And so there'll be some damage to landscaping, which can easily be restored. So this is work that is entirely going to take place inside the building, although equipment and scaffolding and things will be visible from the exterior during the 6 months of that period. We are asking the CDC for a letter of support.
So just to summarize it, exactly right. We are coming to you for 2 things, one of which is to seek your support. And second is we just wanted you to know what's going on. I want, as people who are very concerned about the history of Concord, I'm sure you're very much interested in what's going on at the Wright Tavern, that there is a major effort underway to really bring the building and its historical significance really into Concord and all the things that are involved. We can't do that if the building is not in good repair. So that's where these 2 things are linked together. So the other part is if you know of someone who because as I said, we're reaching out to organizations, trying to understand both good models out there, perhaps good partners, perhaps people who could provide funding, network organizations, et cetera. Please contact me. Have them, either you send me who they are, or we're trying to figure out who all is out there so we can be as robust in our research about the best models for First Parish for the Wright Tavern as possible. So I keep saying First Parish. And as we set so we can really define the future of the Wright Tavern in a way that, as I said earlier, helps to bring it to its rightful place in our community. So that's all we have to say, except for our request for your support and time to answer any questions that you all might have.
Thank you, Tom. And Rosalind, any questions from commissioners? I see none. That was such a complete presentation. You've stunned us into silence. All right, so we have done letters like this before. I think we can certainly talk about this. I may have to recuse myself, but Heather can help us craft a letter. It has to be in by the 20th.
That's right.
So that's
November.
Okay, so we'll
the earlier the better, obviously, just we don't want to rush it, but the 20th is when
okay, well, why don't I volunteer as chair to work with Heather we can start tomorrow, Heather, but in the next week we'll get something drafted up for the commission to look at.
Do you need to formally approve that, or are you okay with it?
Yeah, if we could get some sort of motion to submit a letter of support on behalf of the HDC, that would be helpful.
All right, can someone make that motion since I'm the chair can never make motions? I'm useless here. Mia.
I move that we draft a letter of support to this CPC. I'm sorry, I'm just not making any sense.
Tired.
On
So tired.
on behalf of the Right Tavern. Is
On
that
behalf of
enough? Sorry, Heather?
On behalf of the HDC.
Thank you. On behalf of the
Yes.
HDC.
Thank you.
In support of the right.
Thank you.
And a second?
No.
Luis, all in favor? Luis, I'm just going to take an aye hand. Luis says aye. Paul says aye. Mia?
Aye.
Thank you.
Abigail? Melinda is
Aye.
Dennis is aye. Catherine and Kate. As everyone said aye by hand, Heather, if they didn't say
Thank you
aye
all.
in person.
Thank you
Okay.
so
Thank you,
very, very
Rosalind. Thank you,
much.
Tom.
Thank
Very
you. We
much.
love this building.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
Mel and
much.
Laura.
We're going to
and
do a lot.
Holly.
And
All
thank
right.
you.
Yeah,
Y'all are doing great work tonight. I'm very,
great.
this is democracy in action. Imagine it's tough, but it's,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
it's what
very
we're- what we've been
interesting.
fighting for. So,
Oh,
Yep,
thank
we
you.
need more of
democracy in
it.
action, taking forever.
Thank you. It was
Bye-bye.
great.
All right. Thank
Bye-bye.
you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Just a couple more things. We've got a certificate extension request from the Colonial Inn. Is this about the painting, Heather?
I'm actually not sure if it's the painting or the, yeah, it's the painting and those changes to the kind of rear
Or the
corner.
windows and what have you.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I don't
I
see a
move
problem.
that we, whatever we do, extend the certificate for the 48 Monument Street Square for painting and other
that thing.
whatever.
I'm just glad you're not counting votes tonight, Mia, because that would really
I haven't
screw us up.
slept in 2 nights, so I'm like completely out there.
Second.
Luis, did you
Second.
second it? All in
Yep.
favor, Luis?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Mia?
Aye.
Abigail?
Aye.
Catherine? Aye. Dennis? Aye. Linda? Kate?
Aye.
We're all aye. All right, thank you. Expanding the historic districts, I don't know if anyone's here from Jenny Dugan, but what you're saying is we will set up the public meeting for the 19th.
Yeah,
Which
so I'm suggesting
I
that
think that makes
we have one application on the docket for the 19th. So I say we do that at 7 o'clock and then start the public neighborhood meeting at 7:30.
Okay.
So that we can get that done before I leave y'all. Because I want to be here to hear that discussion and, help you guys move forward with drafting a warrant article or not at that point.
We're very good babysitters, by the way. We are, if need be. Okay, so I think that's fine if the commission is okay with that. So the letter would go out tomorrow? Or-
Yeah, I'd mail it tomorrow.
Okay, and then we'll see who shows up. That'll be our public meeting, and we'll go from there. That makes sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
I see nods. We don't have to vote on that, Heather, no? That's
Nope,
just-
no.
okay.
I'll just go ahead and schedule it.
And then the rest, I apologize. I haven't gotten to the minutes. I think if we tried to approve anything at this point, we'd probably, blow it up by accident. Can we wait one more iteration on the minutes and ask everybody to read them?
Sure, just everyone needs to get to them so we don't get in trouble, especially with library folks or 155 wanting, approved minutes, so.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah, that's a
point.
good point.
Could we, well, those aren't, oh God, those are.
I read the minutes. I don't find anything wrong with them, but again, that's me.
I reviewed the minutes and didn't have any issues.
I read
Kate?
all of them except October 1 because I wasn't there, but the others I'm fine with.
Well,
And I
Kate?
sent in edits.
Sorry, Kate.
Same here. I didn't read October 1st.
Okay, well then maybe we are ready to approve
I
it.
read them all.
I'm going to rely on your
Collective
view.
wisdom.
Yes. So why don't we go ahead and approve what we can? Would that be? I don't have the dates here.
The dates are, hang on.
September 17th,
9/17,
October 1st,
10.
October 14th site visit, and October 15th.
Okay. Site visit's an easy one. I did review that one. All right. So could I get a motion to approve those minutes, please?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from 9/17, 10/1, the site visits from 10/14, and the minutes from 10/15.
Second, somebody?
Second.
Paul, second. All in favor? Luis?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. Nia?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Abigail?
Aye.
And Kate?
Aye.
Thank you all. I think that's it, Heather, right? Are we,
Yes.
can we go back to counting votes now? All right, and thank you all. I am sorry that was such a slog, and I apologize for losing my cool there a little bit on that first application. That was starting to go down.
Don't
really-
apologize. You did great. Nobody could be expected to cope with that.
Okay, well, I think we made some good
I agree.
decisions tonight, and there you go. So thank you all for your hard work. It's good to be
Thank
working
you,
with
Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Peter.
Peter.
All right, you're
Good
welcome.
job.
Take
Night,
care. Goodbye.
everyone.
Hang in there. Heather,
Yes.
thank you for all your work.
Heather,
Both
are you all
Heathers.
right?
Both Heathers.
I'm good. 5 weeks to go.
Hang in there.
She's trying to catch up with Heather Carey. You know.
5 weeks, that's it?
5 weeks left. Yep.
Oh my
So
God.
exciting.
December.
All right.
December,
Go get
baby.
sleep. All right.
Guys, in a few
Dang. Be well.
Night.
Good
See
night.
you all soon.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Night,
Thank you.
everyone.